Okay, hello there. So today we are going to look into some of the underlying aspects of the 133 Sword and Buckler manual. So before that, a couple of things about myself. I have been doing sword and shield fighting for about 35 years now, since 1990, and this is all full contact. And at the same time, I've been researching the existing traditions of sword and shield fighting, small shields, big shields, usually center grip, all over the world. Also reading through the various manuals we have here in Europe. So currently I'm slowly making a book about it, about the actual fighting techniques. Some of those actually still exist in the world, where people still use sword and shields. But anyway, that's that. Topic for today is 133. So if you want to research into this, I highly recommend, of course, get the manual first. The Royal Armoury's book is really good, easy to read, and the Latin translation is decent to my understanding, and there are also alternative translations in the back, so you can go and have a look. On top of that, have a look at the other European sword and buckler manuals from the 16th century, especially the illustrations. Those are maybe a little bit more clear, but they are the same, so you get better idea what's the position of the sword. So after that, go and look into the Kevsur tradition in Georgia. They still do it, but be careful, there is this tourist version and then there's the real version. But get the book from Elasvili about the Kevsur sword and buckler fighting. It is the civilian dueling format, so it doesn't have the big full cuts, unfortunately, in there, but it does have the half shield. So look into that. And once you have gone through that, go and look into Indian sword and buckler traditions. There is lots of material online. Just go and look at that, because from there you can see how the sword actually moves. Alright, and finally, go look into traditions which maybe don't have the buckler, but they have active use of the left hand with the sword or stick. So for this one, I recommend the Filipino martial arts, the real ones, not the sport version, the old ones. So you have to go and find them, find the teachers, find some material over there. There is some on the net, but usually you have to find a person and get that person to explain it to you. So once you have all that, you go into looking into bigger shields. Still maybe round, but bigger shields. For example, from Africa. That's my favorite place. How those are used. Then also look like later 17th century European manuals. I could recommend Pallavicini from Sicily. And then maybe from Spain, or was it Portugal, Godinho. Because in those manuals it is explained how you move the shield with the sword. So once you have that, then you have like a kind of the available picture of how things were done. But as always with the text, it's gonna be difficult to interpret. So my preference is always living traditions, and if not that's possible, then maybe some old films. And if that's not possible, then okay, maybe manuals with pictures, and only then manuals with only text. Anyway, so let's get into the topic. I don't have a buckler today, so I'm gonna be using my left arm and fist as a buckler. But as a comment, the 133 techniques, you can do those without the buckler as well. You can do them like with the two-handed sword option, or single-handed sword option, things like that, because it's always possible to use your left hand to do the techniques, you know, the shield slag. So it can be done with the hand too. So it can be done with the dagger. So if you have a dagger, you can press with the dagger. The other guy's, hands and arms. You can press down. So it's very versatile. So don't get too much stuck on the buckler idea there. Even though the manual is like sword and buckler, it's not just about buckler, okay? You can have like a two-handed parry here, and then you separate your hand, and then you switch to single hand, okay? Anyway, so what is the cutting system? So there are these obsessios, coverings, schützen, long points. There is this half shield guard, something like this. So we have the krukke. So I'm trying to explain how this everything goes together as best I can. I'm not sure if I can do a good job, but let's see. So the first thing to understand is the 7 guards. So the first one would be here. So these actually chain together, and what I found out that this is something you can use in teaching. So when I teach sword fighting myself, I usually create a strike like this and then tell my student how they should then counter me. So these cuts coming from these first guards, right? They are just teaching aids for the priest. So from the side. So this is the first. So when you cut from there, you end up to the second, right? So you cut from here, you end up with the third. You cut from here, you can end up with the fourth, which is up on top of the head. You cut from here, you end up with the fifth, like the long tail, right? And from here, you prepare for the thrust. This is very commonly seen in medieval manuscripts. And then, of course, this is the long point, right? So once again, so we have it second, so this is the third, comes the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, right? So it's really simple, and this can be also used to teach somebody how to cut as a first exercise. So when they can actually do these cuts, then they can feed their training partner the same cuts. So I won't go into details about cutting, but only say that you can have these powerful cuts like this, but then there's the other variant, which is more like you kind of point. So I would be cutting upward with this top edge here, the front edge. Then I turn the sword, and then I cut down here. And from here, I can cut up with the front edge. I hit, I turn, and I pull it down here. So it looks like this. Of course, you can cut low, you can cut high. So it doesn't matter really in the context of the manual what's the actual cut mechanic. Techniques work the same. So okay, next I try to explain the connection between the long points and the guards and schützen and how it goes. So if you remember, this is the first guard. So this is all about moving the sword. It's all about how we move the sword. It's not so much about what are we going to do with the sword. So the movements are the same. So even if we are defending, attacking, or clearing the weapon of the opponent, all these are still based on the basic underlying movements of the sword. So, for example, let's do one run of the guards and positions. So we start from the first. Next up is krukke. Next up is long point. And next up half shield. And next up we end up in the second guard. So if we go back from here to the first, so the first thing you will have is half shield. Then it's the long point when you actually hit, right? Then you move into krukke and back to the first guard, right? So it is actually just what you are seeing in the manual. It's kind of time frames of the different times where the sword is moving. So depending on where we are, there is sometimes different counter. And this makes a lot of sense. So if the opponent is like here, well, usually the priest, okay, just, trust. But if the opponent is here, then the instruction is that don't trust, but, put it down and then go into the shield draw, right? So this is the whole basis of the manual. Understanding the timing and the phase where the opponent is, you apply then a certain technique which will best suit that situation. Okay, so once again, first guard, krukke, long point, half shield, second guard. Second guard, half shield, long point, krukke, first guard. Right. So the same idea works from the left. This is, I think, the third. So coming from the third, you have like third guard, half shield, long point. This would be a krukke mirror. I don't think this is in the manual, but we are missing pages, so you never know. But the whole point is the same, because if I would be having a shield, this is the center position. So you either have like your palm up or palm down. This is basically the krukke. It can be here, it can be here. It's the same. So anyway, we are here, and then we go to this long tail, or the fifth. And the same story from here. So you start, I think the upward cut is mentioned. It's, I think, in conjunction with the shield slag. Maybe done with the back edge, but you can do it with the front edge as well. So it comes from here. So fifth. Then you have this mirror krukke, long point, half shield, and you go back to the third. Right. So it's just this movement, right? Or it's just this movement, right? So now we have this. So this is the fundamental moves of the sword, right? And it's just, depending where we are on time, the counters to this are different. So what about this? This is the fourth. The typical utilization of the fourth guard, it's a transition guard. So when you are cutting up from the fifth, for example, you can, instead of going to your left shoulder, you can choose to go high. I will show the motion. So it's then like this, where you cut from here, you go to the fourth, and then you cut down. So it's like this kind of motion. So it means that I'm cutting from my left, low to high, and I'm also cutting from my left, high to low. So you can change the line of the cut. Same thing from the other side. I'm cutting from my right, low to high, and now I am cutting from my high to low. So it's just that. Of course, from here, if you stop here, you can choose whatever you want to do. Okay, so we have gone through pretty much the basic guards except the thrust. This is maybe a little bit special, but as mentioned, You can do it from the 5th, so just by moving sword here and thrusting. But the manual doesn't say the other things. It kind of doesn't show those in the first 7, but later it says that you can also thrust from here. So it's just, you know, a matter of preference what you want to do. But it's the same movement, right? So you can put it here and thrust, but you can just, you know, it's this movement, right? This is the thrusting movement in the manual. So you get it, maybe do that, or, but anyway, it's really simple, you know. And this, of course, is the long point. So even the thrusts are running through the basic trajectory of the strikes. Okay, there are a couple of more things here. What are the high long points? The high long points are when you go into long point here and do not want to go into half shield and then shoulder. So this would be a typical motion. You cut here and go here. You cut here and go here. So if we start from here, if you cut high, let's say to your opponent's head, which is shown in the manual, then you end up in high long point, right? So it's gonna be high. But from there you will just come back to the shoulder. But you are not using the half shield kind of checkpoint Charlie here. You just keep going. Same from here, you cut, keep going. But there's a moment in time when the long point is here. And then you have to decide what you do. Usually you go here. So then there's the priest special long point. It's just this. So when you cut, you end up here. So what's the long point? It's end of the cut. So you can think of the 5th as also a long point, sometimes called long tail. It's the end of the cut. It's the end of the cut. It's the end of the cut here. All right. So no problems with that. So now we have the seven guards, right? We have the center long point, we have the high long points, we have these low long points. I think the manual there is also this. So if you got straight down, you end up here, right? This long point, usually people don't want to do this. They go to either side. So that's the cutting. So what does all this do with schützen or covering? Well, like I said, starting from the 1st, you go here, this is the Krukke, and this is a schützen, so it's a covering. So if you look at my sword position, it's not fully extended, it's halfway here. So the coverings come from the cuts. So this is one, I'm covering here, whatever comes, high, low. This is the other covering, this is one covering, and this is one covering. So it is not complicated. So if I cut from my right shoulder halfway, I have a shield here. This is covering for anything coming from this side. If I cut from my left shoulder, this is halfway. This is covering anything coming from this side. This is basically covering anything coming from below that side. But if I go high, I can also cover my head. And from here, same story. Cut halfway, you stop anything coming from here. But if you go high, you can cover here as well. This is, I think, not in the manual. Or maybe it is. There are like this, I'm not sure. Certainly this is, because it's the Krukke story. So this is the same as the George Silver's Bastard Guard and Ward. It is used to engage your opponent. And the problem with this one is that if you don't thrust first, you will lose. But if the opponent disengages and hits you to the head, you need to cover. So it's just that. So it's really simple. And if we, final thing I want to say here is that the underlying movement path of the sword, it's something like infinity sign. So if you follow the tip, it makes like a figure 8, right? Which is lying down. So it's not this standing figure 8, it's this lying down figure 8. So if we cut from shoulder to shoulder, this is like downward cutting. We are making the figure 8. And if we cut upward, we are making the figure 8 like this. So of course you can then use the 4th guard to mix things up a little bit if you want. But basically it's just the figure 8 kind of stuff here. And in general, the launch positions for downward cuts are from shoulders or from top of the head. So you first, wherever your sword is, you will move it here to this guard, and then you may cut from here downward. But if you are here, you want to move it here first and then you cut. If you want to cut upward and your sword is somewhere here, you have to move it here first and then you cut. Same story from the other side, you have to cut from there. So this is it. It's not complicated. At least this is how I see it. So if we go back to the first play. So if I would be in the first guard, what I would do. So this is just my interpretation, may not be correct, but based on the position of the players in the images, to me it looks like that this is something coming out of, it's not out of scabbard, but although there are some scabbard carries that are high, so we don't know exactly what they used. This is one scabbard carry low, this is another, it's high, because there's this strap going across your shoulder. But anyway, it doesn't matter, you can do it the same way. So my opponent is in half shield, so they are ready to tap me to the head. So they are basically pointing the sword to me. So I just cannot, get closer because they will hit me. So if I want to attack, I will have to clear the weapon away. So the way to do it, if my sword is out of the scabbard, I will just slap it. And usually you move here. And then you have the possibility to thrust. But if I want to cut, I can make this cut, front edge, try to get them, turn the front edge down, you end up into half shield, right? So it's like this motion. It's tiny slice, but if I can hit their, arm, elbow, it's game over with sword. So it's really fast. Or I can slap the weapon away. Okay, so if I'm in the half shield, I can be here, I can be here, I could be even in a crooked, but they are here. So my buckler is here, this is exposed. I can do it on purpose, like bait, or not. I can try to keep it here, but still exposed if my opponent moves over there. So I don't want to get hit. And if my opponent attacks first, the play is kind of simple. I could also start from here. This is actually set in the manual. I could also start from here. This is set in the manual. But as you notice, it's either kind of the center-ish position or from the left side, right? Why? Because the attack is coming to my right side. So if I'm here, I will just block it, push it down, and this is the shield strike coming in at the same time. So it comes, I can go here, this is in the manual, So if the shield strike is omitted, there is a picture of the guy doing this. Anyway, so it's bang. So it's really simple movement, and in terms of mechanics, super easy and quite powerful. The other way is, of course, to jump it, pam pam. But I don't think that's maybe not the case here. Okay. So that's my counter, right? Stupefyingly easy. I could also start from here. It's the same. I cut the opponent weapons down, shield strike going in. Just cut down, go in. Cut down, go in. Try it. If I'm here at the low or in the first, and my opponent is in the first, and they will do the cut against me, then what I have to do is first go to this guard. So I'm not stopping. I'm just doing the same movement again. It's the same movement again. If I'm here, same movement, you know. If I'm here, shorter movement, but it's the same. So it's coming from here, half shield, and then we cut. I could also do it like this. I could go here to the fifth, right? To see what my opponent does. So this is the shield strike. I could then go in with the thrust. So there are many options there. So what about the other direction? So if I'm cut from this side, well, same story. But now of course you start here if you can. You can do it from here, but it's more difficult. So somebody tries to attack my left side. So in the manual, let me take a stick. So this is my buckler now. So in the manual you have it like this. So if you notice, it's just the opposite of the other one, right? So the common way here would be schützen. So you come in here, it's just like guard. You go halfway. So this is your parry, and then you go maybe into half shield again. Right? This is in the manual. But what the priest does is nukken. So it's a different technique now. So the initial parry is the same, but what they do, they bounce off here. So this is a motion done in the wrist. It's also found in Pallavicini's, I think, Sword and Buckler manual from the 17th century. It's called mandibolo, a jaw cut. So once you have parried with the sword, you will just flick it with your wrist to the opponent's jaw or neck or somewhere here. But the other way of doing it, if you want to play the old way, is to cut it first. So you go here, and then you go into this guard, and then you cut. So it's like a bang, bang, you know, just. And for the other side, it's that. So this is what you can use when you do sparring. So so somebody attacks here, I will block it, and that was like a buckler strike. So bang, shield strike, follow-up strike. So this is like bang, 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 bang. This comes from sparring. Okay, I think I may have got a little bit messy over there. But if you remember the basic idea that start from a guard, you go into schützen, some kind, go into long point, go into either this half shield or high long point if you cut from low, and then you end up in some other guard. You can end up here, or if you want, you can end up here. Likewise, go through here, you may go to high, end up here, but you can also end up, well, maybe this is not recommended to have a buckler low here, but this is, then you are here, not like this. So you may end up like here. So you move from guard to guard, and then in between those guards you have this intermediate long point, mirror krykke, high long point, half shield stuff. So that's my idea. Hope you like it. Any questions, just ask so we can discuss.